I want you to imagine the people that you see in Walmart. They're called the Hutterites. Everybody knows who the Hutterites are? You do, right? You see them, they're wearing a different kind of clothes. When they speak to each other, they speak a different kind of language than regular. They speak this old German language. They came here hundreds of years ago, but they still kept their language, they kept their clothing, they kept their culture. That's kind of what the Rohingya is in Myanmar. And move forward, 1982, all of a sudden imagine there's a referendum in Canada and they decided that, you know what, we're not going to call these Hutterites any more Canadians. We're going to take their citizenship because, oh well, guess what, they don't speak English. They're not from our religion, or maybe they look different. And when they took their citizenship away, guess what else followed afterwards? They did not have to give them any schooling. They did not have to give them any access to health care. So they were left in their own villages, trying to provide services for themselves, trying to protect themselves because they have been otherized, because they are no longer considered Burmese. I want to tell you what I've been hearing on the ground. They're saying when they started escaping, or starting August 25th, when they started escaping, they were holding off the men and the youth because they wanted to keep them and torture them. And one person told me this is how they torture them. They throw them in this very dirty washrooms, keep them for days onwards. They cut their hands, they cut their fingers, they take off their nails. They will keep on torturing them, and then they will kill them in the worst possible way. This is not just a simple genocide. This is textbook genocide in the sense that I'm going to scare you so bad that you will not return back to Myanmar.
Finally, when I arrived in Bangladesh, the journey to the camps was a really hard one. We arrived in Dhaka, and then from Dhaka, after the first 2 days, we traveled to Chittagong. And then from Chittagong, we traveled all the way to Cox's Bazar. And then from Cox's Bazar, we would eat breakfast early morning in our hotel, and then get up and go at 8 a.m. and start driving towards the camps. The drive to the camps halfway was very scenic through this beautiful marine drive that had the ocean on one side, the Bay of Bengal, and lush green forest and hills on the other side. And to think that in this beautiful heaven, God has sent these miserable refugees that have just arrived, it was just something that, really, really boggled our minds. This is Shakir. He's a Rohingya in the southern tip of Bangladesh in a camp called Nayapara. So I just met up with him through my contacts in Canada. Shakir works with a lot of the media here. He does translations and things like that. And when you go out to do aid work, it's very important to actually listen to the people who you're helping out, to find out what they really need, what they are thinking, what is going on in the ground from their perspective. I just wanted to ask you, the first question is, do you see any of the, which are the local aid agencies or the foreign aid agencies that are able to help, and which are the ones that are not able to help?
Actually, just I want to say that the local agency, local or international NGO or agencies, they can go UN base. Mm-hmm. They can go to effective area to assess the humanitarian project. Okay, so those who are the local agency, okay, but they get the permission from the government, but they can't go to the Rohingya effective area.
So you're saying the UN is a good organization to work with when it comes to the Rohingyas?
Yes.
They have good access.
Yeah.
Okay. What about, I come from Canada, there's the Islamic Relief Aid. From the UK, there's Muslim Aid. How are they doing in here in their work?
Actually, it's the Muslim Aid. They work here at maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So maybe the NGO base UK. Okay. But they are working here. They're working here for the Rohingyas. They're very good. Actually. and I don't know what is the problem of the government between them, but they temporarily stopped their access to the refugee.
Really?
Really.
So this Muslim foreign aid agencies, they're not able to access the refugees as much.
Yes.
Okay, and this is something that the government has restricted, you're saying?
Yeah. I want to request them is that if they want to develop our community, but we have to focus to two things. I want if they want to develop our community, first one female empowerment, number two youth empowerment. It's very essential for our community because our community people is in the silent mode, also the ignorant, and so they can note the raise of the voice in front of international community about their right. Okay.
So did you guys get that? He's saying that he wants us to focus on their female empowerment, their youth empowerment, and to give these people a voice because they're not educated, they're mostly silent. He needs these people to get a voice for the international community to hear it from themselves, and that's something that he's requesting himself.
Yes.
Hello everyone, just to let you know what you see behind me right there, that mountain, that's Burma, and this is the Naf River, and this is Bangladesh. People have actually been crossing across this river and then just coming right here in this land. So this is the river that everybody has been crossing just to get here to Bangladesh. So thought I'd let you guys see this river. It's beautiful. We drove, and finally, after arriving at the refugee camps in Ukia, which is near Teknaf, you get off your car and then you start hiking. You hike for an hour or two till you enter the deep camps inside. Although on your drive there for 10 kilometers, you would see refugee camps left and right of the road, but we had a target refugee camp that was very remote, that wasn't getting enough aid, and we wanted to really go there and target this camp and see what we can do. I met a lot of women and children in the Rohingya camps, and that was probably the best part of my visit, was to go inside their homes. And in those hot tents, there was passionate, angry stories from these women. I had this one old woman with two little kids tell us that the Burmese army killed her son. She, her son's wife, and her two little grandkids, boys, walked over a week to arrive here on the day of Eid al-Adha. But the journey was so hard that the son's wife died 3 days after arriving here. She is now old and helpless with these two grandkids. I had another woman tell us a story of how she ran with her baby and her son. She and the baby survived. Her little son was shot dead in his stomach. She was so angry when she told her story. Deforestation of miles and miles of hill tracts to set up these refugee camps have increased the chances of environmental disasters. It rains here all the time due to the monsoon season. The storm season was still not over yet. One landslide, one major storm, one cholera outbreak can have devastating results on these refugee camps. I need to tell you about my visit to the Chittagong Medical College, where gunshot wounds and landmine explosions by the Burmese military destroyed the life of these Rohingyas that were lying traumatized, emotionless, and very poor conditions in the hospital. We spend a few minutes with each patient asking about their names, where they're from, where's their family, and what happened to them. We donated cash to around 11 patients for medicine, food, and family expenses. One patient said he ran to save his brother who was blown up by a landmine. but in the process stepped onto a landmine himself, losing his legs, hands, and eyes. One lady said she ran with her family, but the military shot her 2 little boys, her husband, her brother-in-law, and her leg, but she survived. But that's no survival, since everyone in her family is now dead. I heard story after story of brutal ethnic cleansing. It left me very broken. Hello everyone, this is Saima Jamal again. As you know, I've come here from Canada and I'm watching the work of this amazing organization called As Sadiq Foundation. And these people have been taking me, and we're going and accompanying all their volunteers, and we're watching what's going on the ground. And on the ground, things are pretty dire. We visited families, their homes inside all these camps that you can see right at the back. And this is a camp that is in Teknaf. Truly humanity-based local volunteer group called As Sadiq Foundation and the Bangladeshi Army. We were able to distribute $14,000 Canadian in cash aid to over 1,700 Rohingya refugee families in Bangladesh. We tried to bring some happiness in the Rohingya children's faces in the refugee camps in Teknaf, Bangladesh. But honestly, I ended up being happiest myself when I saw these big smiles over something as simple as a selfie and a conversation, and teaching them how to say thank you, Canada. It was the most beautiful thing to see.